Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to the show, where we're going to bring you the latest in AI news and share our views and opinions and dive straight into it. Today's going to be a little bit of a short video because we've got a few things we need to be cracking on with. So we're going to cut the fluff, dive straight into it, hit the like, subscribe. Well, what have we got?
This is a good one. I like these stories because there's a few of them happening now, which is very pertinent to what we are doing. So let me share my screen. I'll quickly talk you through it, and then we'll discuss the intricacies in somewhat detail. But as you said, we've got to try and keep this clear and concise today. So this is an article that Ben found a little while ago. It came out yesterday, which is really good, and it is lightweight LLM powers Japanese enterprise AI deployments. And this is a story that I'm hearing echoed quite a lot more now. A flavor of this story, which is that we're seeing smaller and smaller models being deployed in better and better settings, able to do things, that these large frontier models can do. And this one is no different. This is a Japanese model, and they have released Suzume 2, I hope I pronounced that right. Let me know in the comments if I did not. But it's a large language model that runs on a single GPU. It's a 30 billion parameter model, meaning that you and I could run it, Ben. I mean, you have to have a really good computer to still run it. But if you have one of those top tier laptops, you're running this thing, which is incredible. And this whole article goes into, the costs of training it. Very low. I don't know the conversion rate between the Japanese currency and, our currency, but I assume it's a lot less. I mean, it's, a fraction of the cost of the larger models that it demonstrates here. So very interesting there. And it goes into, a lot of the details of how the performance is, negligibly worse than that of frontier models, for the business use case, and also goes into some of the key things that we have spoken about at length, namely data sovereignty and security for enterprises that it's being deployed in. So yeah, for me, what's most interesting about this news story is the fact that we're seeing it more commonly. Only yesterday I was looking at another tiny model that had been released that was touting to be, of certain capabilities, smaller and smaller packages. And it's just what I love to see, Ben. I love to see this because it directly feeds into our mission and what we're trying to achieve as a company.
100% will. And I think that's what's really exciting is, all the headline news tends to be, like, for example, we got Elon Musk with his XAI, raising another 15 billion because he's sort of like, trying to compete on the frontier stage against OpenAI and all the rest of them. So there's that side of it, which often, when you're hearing about these huge amounts of money, gets a lot of the noise and attention. But this is, I think, where actually this is what matters. If you give a remote shit about sovereignty of your data, about privacy, about security, about regulation and making sure your data doesn't leak, if you care about any of those things, this is where you need to be paying attention, because the other space is all about collecting your data, monetizing your data, monetizing it. It's the same game that's been played since the internet came alive, basically. But this is really where, this is the space we're interested in, we're excited about, we're focused on privacy and thinking about how we can implement solutions for people, not just enterprises and universities here in Japan and all the rest of it. Yes, there's a really important use case. We had meetings with several engineering companies about, their concerns about not having processes, data leakages, how they can implement AI in a secure way. These are the same conversations we're having. Some people are pulling the trigger, some people are really, really slow. But I think what's more important is to get these micro models, which are getting better and better, to people. So more and more people can actually take ownership and self-sovereignty of their data, of their AI. Because I think, I don't think people realize we're at that cusp where the world's getting so digital and so potentially dystopian, with government overreach and oversight and all the rest of it, that we have, it's not about hiding anything. It's just about, fundamentally, I think freedom starts with privacy. And it's, you choose whether, you want to disclose something. It's up to you. And even if you've got nothing to hide, it shouldn't be a case of, Well, let me just see it anyway if you've got nothing to hide. No, it's your freedom, it's your choice. And I think that's really important. And this is really, I think, part of the bigger picture, part of the story. And I'm excited to see these developments. And again, these things, the more the micro models and the better they get, the more people are working on these tiny models in the space. And the more, I guess, people take notice of this, then it's just going to be, it's beneficial to, humanity ultimately. So it's great to see this happening. Again, I'm sure we'll be exploring it in terms of, whether, there's applications that we can look at for us. But this space is moving so fast that there's always going to be, next week, there'll probably be another, tiny model that's killing it. But yeah, really interesting article, I thought.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, as you said, we're right on a cusp where we're having two sides of a story at the moment. Just the other day, we were talking about Gemini 3, which is Google's latest iteration, and it is truly, truly impressive and amazing frontier technology. I mean, it crushes benchmarks in so many domains. But there is this other darker side to what that is, and that is, Google are humongous data harvesters. Their whole business model is built on it. And we spoke about that. That's in that video. Check it out. But, it's great to see this other side of the narrative, these labs that are also building smaller local deployments, which is going to be fundamentally what is incredibly useful to the average person because they can run it on their phones, they can take ownership of it, they can run it on their laptops, their computers, they can do whatever. These, if we can get them better, it's the best of all worlds. You can have that frontier level intelligence and you can have sovereignty and ownership of it. Because something like Gemini 3, you bet they give a lot of free access to it, so much free access to it, you have to ask yourself why, because they're very expensive to run. And it's because the vast amount of data that they can get from you. And as these models get more intelligent, the more you'll tell them, the more they'll be able to understand about you as well. And that only feeds, their business. So no, it's great to see, for me, the two sides of this narrative happening. We have this impressive technology coming out of Frontier Labs, and it is great. But we also have this side of development, which is trying to make these smaller sovereign solutions for everybody. And those, I believe, are going to be the future.
Do you see Google Gemini, it's all circling back to Google Gemini just slightly there. Do you see Google Gemini, effectively deploying an ad-based market like they had with their search?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to some degree, they're already setting that up. They're setting up Google search to, contain AI results. You can search using AI. You can do all of this kind of thing. Gemini can return results to you in terms of links. And I think it's a natural extension to what powers Google, which is their ad business. And that is going to be slowly dying based on how people search for information. So you can think, I believe something like Google Gemini is going to be there as the replacement for Google search, which we've had for the last 20 odd years, 25 years. So yeah, no, 100%. I think that's the natural progression it's going to take.
So again, people's data is going to be harvested. It's going to be, used and all the rest of it monetized. And again, I think people just need to be aware of that. And it's fine to use these platforms and use them. I mean, it's just, I think it's really important that people start being aware that there are alternatives with so many of these things. A lot of people, it's a really funny one, isn't it? Because we all think everyone should really care about privacy. And it seems like an obvious thing, but so many people may say it, but they don't. Their actions don't actually prove it. If that makes sense.
This is what's quite interesting is, and I have a point on this, is I think in Western countries like traditionally the UK and the US, is that you have this perceived freedom, and only now are we really, especially in the UK, starting to see that creep on our personal rights and freedoms. However, we released Whisper AI the other day. We're going to do a dedicated video, probably Monday, demoing it properly. But we released Whisper AI, which is an AI that runs directly on your phone. No data harvested, no accounts, everything like that. And funnily, we're only getting preliminary stats because it's only been out a week. But do you know what? Whereas Ava Mind, our previous app, was very popular in the US, the biggest countries that are downloading Whisper AI at the moment are in countries that don't have freedoms, in lots of Asian countries, in lots of Eastern European countries. They're the ones downloading this app at the moment. The US where it was at the top, is at the bottom of the demographic this time around. And that's because I think those demographics that are downloading it the most are already in that point, or have been in that point for a long time, where personal freedoms and privacy haven't been a thing, and they feel the effects of that. Whereas in the Western world, where we are, in America and Europe and parts of Europe and the UK, we haven't had to experience that yet. We're sleepwalking into it to a degree.
You know what? Well, I think that's a really insightful perspective. And actually, it is exactly the same when it comes to the debasement of currency and this whole Bitcoin and digital sort of new digital money. It's the people in the Western countries are to some extent fat, lazy. What's the word I'm looking for? Just complacent is the word I'm looking for. Complacent. Because it's all right, everything's okay. For most people it's okay. They got their gripes, but when they're not living in a country, whether it's South America, Central America, wherever, where their currency is being debased at a horrendous rate, where they need to get out their pesos and into the better option historically was US dollars. Obviously, they're now discovering an even better solution, which is decentralized money, Bitcoin. So it's a very similar high-level perspective, isn't it? Where it's the people who are feeling the pain get it straight away. Well, obviously, that makes complete sense, doesn't it? And I just hope more and more people in Western societies. But also, this is for everybody. So, I hope everybody who just needs it, who gets it, just here's a piece of technology. We're here to help. We're
everyone, no matter where you are, whatever 100%. Geography, it's 100%. Important. Privacy is a fundamental right to people, and it doesn't matter where you are, or even if 100%. Your country encroaches or it doesn't, you have the right to keep your data private if you'd like to. So 100%.
And I see it completely around about it. It's basically your freedom. It's privacy equals freedom, and that is like the foundation of where you start with your freedom is your own private thoughts, conversations, all of that. That's really like the foundation layer. So it's just a really interesting perspective, Will. So thanks for sharing that, and I think that's very pertinent. Brilliant. Listen, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Let us know what you think in the comments. Let's know what you think about these big frontier models, what you think about these tiny models. Maybe if you find us, whisper. We're like keeping it a little bit quiet under the radar. So feel free to check it out. That's tell us what you think about these tiny models. Tell us what you think about the privacy thing. Maybe you're not even bothered. Maybe you got nothing to hide. It's funny, my parents go, "Oh, I'm 70 odd. I don't care. Whatever. I get it. But I think, we fought wars for our freedom, and this is another battleground I think we need to fight for. So join us on this mission, on this fight for privacy and for freedom. And until next time, keep tuned in. Take care, guys.
Cheers, guys.